Oh my God, we got a legend in the building today. I do a lot of interviews, and every now and then you get excited when you have the opportunity to speak to somebody you have long admired, and this is one of them days.
Oh man.
We have a legend in the building, lead singer of Shalamar, incredible solo career, multi-platinum albums, Grammy winner. Please welcome to VladTV, Mr. Howard Hewett. Howard, what's up, man?
What's up, man? What's up? Your check is in the mail. All that was a great introduction. That was cool.
Nah, I gotta bring you on right. I
appreciate
You deserve it. So, I want to take it back because you got a long, storied career. You've been in music pretty much your whole life.
All my life, yeah.
Where you born and raised at?
Born and raised in Akron, Ohio. I was left there when I was like 20 years old, but for the most part, before then, I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio, rubber capital of the world.
When most people think of Akron, they think of LeBron James.
Right.
So you're like, yo, I put Akron on the map long
time ago.
LeBron.
Well, myself and James Ingram. James Ingram's from Akron. Had a lot of, there's a lot of music that came out of Ohio, period. Akron, Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati, all that stuff. But in Akron, it was myself, James Ingram, Devo was from Akron, Chrissy Hines, and she was from Akron. And Akron really provided, and I've been talking about this a lot because I was just back there, my birthday, October 1st, and they renamed the street that I grew up on. They renamed it Howard Hewett Junior Way. You know what I'm saying? So
congratulations.
Thank you. And there was we had the commemorations for that, and so we did a lot of interviews and everything. And what I realized, and I always talked about it before, but really got into it then, was that Akron really. I love Akron so much because it provided a safe environment for me to explore my foundation as far as my music is concerned. A safe environment without having to, be concerned about getting shot in the streets and all that. And at 14, 15, 16 years old, I was playing like cabarets from 12 midnight till 6 in the morning, And my band that I was with, we started playing, clubs and stuff there where they sold liquor. We're like 15, 16, 17 years old. They sold liquor there, but we still were able to play there for a bunch of different places around Akron and around different places in Ohio. So it was a great place to grow up.
Did you know James and any of the others before y'all made it big?
I met James when I was 15. I met James. Yeah, James was with a group called Revelation Funk, and he only played keyboards and sang background because he didn't consider himself, a lead singer. So they had a guy, this cat Bernard Lawson, that was like, when James was alive, we would always say that Bernard. To this day, Bernard could sing me and him up under that chair over there. That's how bad this cat is. He still is. And so James's group was called Revelation Funk. My group was called Life. We spelled it Lyfe. And we were like Revelation Funk. All the cats in Revelation Funk were about 4, 5, 6 years older than us. We were like Revelation Funk proteges. Everything they did, we were like on it, man. It was like crazy. So, but I used to see them in my gymnasium doing Battle of the Bands with Ohio players and Revelation Funk. I used to see them for about $1.50. Get into, it was just an amazing, and a lot of groups came up in Akron. There's a lot of talent, a lot of groups that came up, but because we didn't have anything to really look at, like record companies and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, we were just doing music, and so that's why a lot of groups got together, then they break up, and then other groups get together and they break up. We never saw an outlet. We never saw an end to our madness. You know, so unless you were really dedicated to what you were doing, you could go by the wayside, because going and I mean. The first Rolls Royce I ever saw was this cat Donald Leathers. We used to call him Hollywood, and he was the top pimp in Akron. So that was the first time I ever saw a Rolls Royce.
Now, your mother in Akron, she was actually a gospel promoter, no?
She major. I'm glad you said it, because a lot of people don't know that, but she was a major gospel promoter in the Akron, Cleveland, Canton area. And she would bring people in, you know, like James Cleveland, Albertina Walker in the Caravans when Shirley Caesar was still with them, Five Blind Boys, Alabama, Pilgrim Jubilees, Volunteers, Soul Stirred, all those cats. And she put our group together, me and my sisters, called the Hewett Singers. And I was like 11 years old at that time. And once we were, you know, and shaping up to tour, to perform. Of course, nepotism was alive and well in our family. So every time she would bring a show in, we would open up the show for her there. And then in the summertime, we go on the chitlin circuit, gospel chitlin circuit, up and down the East Coast, Midwest, parts of Canada and stuff. So we had a good time.
Nice. Okay, so from Akron, you make your way where, to LA?
LA, man. When I was 6 years old, man, my dad piled us all. I have 4 older sisters, and he piled, and I have a younger brother. He piled all of us in this station wagon that we had, and his sister, my Aunt Ida, and my mom, he and my mom, and we took a cross-country trip from Ohio out here to California. And we stayed with my uncle, my mom's brother, for about 10 days, and then turned around and drove back. And ever since then, 6 years old, never came back between then and the time I left. Never came back. But I always say, I'm living in California. I want to live in California. So, you know, so when I turned like 19, I was 18, I did a little bout with insanity. I had my little bout with insanity, and I joined the Air Force, you know. So, you know, because I was like, you know, wanting to figure some stuff out. But I was supposed to do like 4 years. I did 10 months, 11 days, and 4 hours in there. Got out honorable discharge, full benefits, everything. But I went back to Akron for about a year, and then I came when I was 19, and then when I was 20, I moved out here, and that was it. I
never looked back.
I touched down LAX. After I paid for my ticket to come out here, I had $34 in my pocket, man. And my cousin picked me up at the airport. My cousin Michael picked me up at the airport, man. And it was me and him for about 8-9 months, you know, and I had a ball. I had no money, making, you know, I finally got a little, you know, only 9 to 5 I ever really had. You know, I got, you know, a job at this department store called Orbox. I worked in the women's shoe department. I was 20 years old working in the women's shoe department. I had a ball. It was great. So, what do you mean you're not wearing stockings? Your legs are perfect. You know, it's like it was great. It was great. So, you know, I did that. Yeah. I got out here when I was 20 years old.
Okay. So how did you transition back into music? At the time you working at the women's shoe store, are you on the side singing?
I connected with these people down at this place called Mavericks Flat, you know, down in the Crenshaw district, John Daniels and Alonzo Daniels. And what Mavericks Flat, it was a club on the weekends, but during the week, it was they had Maverick International, which was a booking agency, and all their bookings were overseas. So John and Alonzo put together show groups, you know. You did top 40 stuff, you know, everything from Disco Inferno to Mandy, you know what I'm saying? And so we did, about 2 weeks after I got out here, I connected with them down at Mavericks Flat, because the guy the cat that played bass for Revelation Funk, Revelation Funk came out here and stayed, and were out here about a year, and then they broke up. So this cat T. Tucker played bass for them, but now he was playing bass for this group called Love Machine. The Love Machine. It was like seven women that just they did all top 40 stuff. You know the first black model for The Price is Right, Kathleen Bradley.
Yes,
She started in the Love Machine. That's how she got her start down in Mavericks Flat. A lot of people were. Ralph Johnson from Earth, Wind and Fire started out down in Mavericks Flat as well. So, you know, I got down there and I met John John and Alonzo a couple weeks after I got out here. And he expressed the fact that he wanted to put together at that time a real classy. He was looking for a classy type of feel as far as the group was concerned, and top 40 stuff. You know, and so like we put a group together called Beverly Hills, and we rehearsed for about a year. And then finally went overseas. Our first gig was overseas in Helsinki, Finland, and we started that, and I did that first tour about 9 months over there, making $250 a week, But I was like 22 years old, somewhere around there, man. I had no wife, no kids, no responsibility, no nothing. I was just hanging, having a good time. We went everywhere from Helsinki, Finland to Geneva, Switzerland, Saint-Tropez, France, Benidorm, Spain, all over the place, man. It was amazing time. So I did that for about a year. After I was working the job, and the whole time I was working the job, then we were rehearsing it to go overseas. So it was cool. It was good. It was really good.
So what happened with the group? I mean, y'all having a good old time. You're young. You're doing your thing. Did the group ever get signed?
No, we never even looked at. It wasn't even about getting signed. It was we were doing. I used to tell John Daniels. I used to tell him. I said, man, I can make gold records, man. I can do that. They were having a party one time. I remember for whatchamacallit, from the producer from Motown. He's passed away now. Did car wash and all that stuff. Man, what's his name? He would come back from the grave and kill me if I couldn't. Again, but they were having a party for him to present him with like gold and platinum records for car wash, for Rolls Royce. And man, I was at that. They were having it at Mavericks. And I told John, I said, man, I went outside. I said, John, man, I can make gold records. I can do that. Just get me in the studio. And he laughed. He's like, ah, ha, ha. And then send me back overseas again for about another 4 or 5 months or so. So, yeah.
The group wound up breaking up overseas?
We broke up overseas. We broke up before we left London, but trying to get a deal was not even in the works as far as the group was concerned. John never really had that type of. He was a very creative cat, but he never really had that type of motivation as far as like records and stuff were concerned.
Got you. We talking about Norman?
Norman Whitfield. Thank you.
There you go.
Norman Whitfield. Yep. He killed me, man. He was like, because Norman tried to sign some stuff up with me for a long time, but we never did. We never could, connect as far as certain things are concerned.
Okay, so you're back home now. How does Shalamar come together?
So I came back from overseas, started kicking around, for about 6, 7, 8 weeks or so. And then I connected with this cat, Jeffrey Bowen. He was a producer over at Motown, produced a lot of stuff on Commodores, on The Temptations, Standing on Shaky Ground, all that kind of stuff. Used to do a lot of stuff with Bonnie Pointer, and Bonnie Pointer was his lady, actually, and he produced her, But he was working on a project with Eddie Hazel. He was doing a project on Eddie Hazel, guitar player from Parliament Funkadelic. Yeah, Maggot Brain, that's Eddie Hazel,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. So like this girl, Tammy Gibson got in touch with me. She wanted me to come and do a background session for them. That she was putting the background session together for a couple of songs that they were doing. And so like once I went there to do the session. We finished up the session and stuff, and Jeffrey Bowen came to me. He said, "Man, I love your vocals. You know, I love what you do." So he said, "But I want to put you. This is going to be a self-contained situation." He said, "Because Eddie can't sing, so you know they wanted like 3 vocalists plus all the musicians. It was going to be called the Eddie Hazel Experience or something like that." And so he said, "I'd love for you to be a part of it." You know, he said, "I can get you." We can put together the contracts and all that stuff as far as Motown is concerned. It'll take some time to put it together. He said, "But I can get you into the union tomorrow." You know, he said, "I get you in the union tomorrow. We'll start working on the album." So we're working. He gets me in the union the next day. I actually quit the job that I was with then, and so like we're working, and we're working about 2 months into the whole thing. They were good. It was making good money. Then all of a sudden they started giving what we used to call back in the day the Motown runaround. You know what I'm saying? Where we're like, it's like, you know, the checks weren't reflecting, you know, the work that we were doing in the studio. And so like I called a meeting, right? I called a meeting with Jeffrey Bowen and his co-producer, this cat named Angela Bond. And I dropped my lady at the time. My lady, the lady I was with, she worked for Don Cornelius at the Soul Train Dance Studios over on Santa Monica and Fairfax. So I dropped her off at work. Told her I'm going to the Motown building. So I'm in the Motown building talking and getting all this stuff off my chest. And like in the middle of the whole thing, the phone rings, right? And Angelo Bond answers the phone and he looks at me. He says, "It's for you, right?" And I said, "You know, if it's my lady, tell her I'll call her back when I get done with the meeting." And he says, "No, it's not a lady, it's a guy." And this is before cell phones, right? So you could hear and he said, "It sounds like it's long distance." That's when you could hear all the crackling on the phone if it was long distance stuff. And so like I get on, I take the phone and it's Jeffrey Daniel from Shalamar, right? I met Jeffrey and Jody before Shalamar even existed because all the Soul Train people used to come to Maverick's Flat, you know, and on the weekends and just dance, you know, the dance club. And then they heard me do shows with Beverly Hills because every time before we went overseas, every time we wanted to try a show out, we would play Maverick's Flat on Friday and Saturday night. So like that's when they had first heard me sing. And so in the meantime, when I was overseas with Beverly Hills, Shalamar formed. They had first thing was this thing called Uptown Festival. It was like a medley of old Motown hits and stuff. And they had this guy Gary Mumford that was lead singer then. Then he went back to the church, and then they did Take That to the Bank. And this cat, Gerald Brown from Cincinnati, sang Take That to the Bank. So, you know, they were on the road at that time they were promoting Take That to the Bank, and they got into an altercation. Something happened with between Jeffrey and Jody and Gerald Brown. And Gerald Brown splits, leaves them out on the road with no
the lead singer leaves in the middle of a tour.
In the middle of the tour. It's like, you know, I don't know what happened. It wasn't none of my business, right? So like, you know, he said, well, when y'all, I found out that Gerald had said, well, when y'all see it my way, give me a call, right? And so they called me instead. And but what happened was Jeffrey knew that my lady at the time, which, you know, actually became my first wife, the mother of my 2 older daughters, he knew that she worked for Don. So he called her to find out where I was. So this is on a Friday, right? So she told him I'm at the Motown building and I'm up there, you know, getting all this stuff on my chest. He calls And then he says, I know that because they had talked to me once before, like a year before, about joining the group, but I was obligated to go back overseas. So like, he said, I know we talked before, but we want to offer you an equal position in the group, lead singer, blah, 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 blah. He said, you're at the Motown building, right? I said, yeah. And he says, where are you? I said, I'm up on the 15th floor, because Motown had 17, 16, and 15. And so, like I said, I'm up on the 15th floor. He said, well, Solar's offices are in that same building down on the 9th floor. He said, we already talked to Dick Griffey, and, we told him about it. He's waiting for you to get in touch with him, blah, 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 And so, like, I get off the phone and I tell these guys at Jeffrey Bowen and them, I tell them what to deal with. I said, that's Jeffrey Daniel from Shalamar, blah, blah, blah. He says, man, Shalamar be nothing but a fly-by-night disco group. It never amount to anything. You don't want to get involved with them. Solar will never be a Motown, blah, and that whole thing. So I start talking, then Angelo starts talking, and I get like, kind of shrink down, get a little, listen to what they're talking about. And then when they got done, I said, well, I'm parked on the street. I need to go put some money in the meter so I don't get a ticket. And I said, I left and went right down to the 9th floor, got in and talked to Dick. He reiterated what Jeffrey had proposed. And so I told him, give me a night to try and rectify this thing with these people upstairs, because even though I didn't have contract signed, my word is worth it more than any contract I could ever sign. So, I went home and I called Jeffrey Bowen and them, said, if you guys want to rectify this thing, I'll be home. That was Friday night, right? Nobody calls. So Saturday, I called Dick Griffey back, went over to his house. He stayed in Baldwin Hills, I think, at that time. And went over his house, watched a videotape of a Shalamar show. And then when it was done, I'm sitting in this rocking chair, I remember. And Dick says, well, sing something. Jeffrey and Jody say you're a great singer. That's my Dick Griffey impression. Because Dick Griffey always was always wanting to be a gangster type cat. Said, sing something for me. Jeffrey and Jody say you're a great singer. So I said, sing something. Just, a cappella, right here. It says, yeah. So then I said to myself, I said, well, Lord, me and you, right? And so like I broke into Feel the Fire by Peabo Bryson, right? And went through the first verse, half the hook. Dick says, okay, I'll be right back. He goes upstairs, comes back down, he gives me like $500 cash. $500, right? Which was cool, because I wasn't making anybody except for
what year are we talking here?
Hey, what?
What year are we talking here?
We're talking 70, the end of 78.
Okay, so it's 1978, $500 cash is something.
Something. Yeah, so it's cool. Okay. Then he goes in the other pocket and brings out an airline ticket. That was before 9/11. That was when I could ride on anybody. Anybody can ride on anybody's ticket, right? There wasn't a particular name that had to be on it like it is today. So he said, here's an airline ticket. You got to catch the red eye out tonight. He said, because tomorrow you have to meet Jeffrey and Jody in New Jersey. They had gone from New York to New Jersey. He said, you got to meet them in New Jersey and rehearse the lip sync and the choreography to take that to the bank. He said, because Monday you got a TV show to do. So that's how it went down. Got the offer on Friday. Guess I did a little lightweight audition on Saturday. Saturday night I was on the red eye. Sunday we rehearsed the lip sync and choreography all day long. Then Monday we had this little TV show, this little dance show to do in Paterson, New Jersey. So I was lip syncing. I did the Milli Vanilli thing long before Milli Vanilli did it. I was lip syncing.
And for anybody who's not clear, Dick Griffey, that's a legendary record man. Legendary record man, founder of Solar Records. Everybody from Babyface, obviously Shalamar,
Whispers,
The Deal, Whispers all come up under that label.
Yeah, Lakeside, Dynasty, Carrie Lucas, Climax. They were
Midnight
all over
Star.
there. Midnight Star, exactly. Serious.
Okay. So now you're part of the group. Cause I'm wondering, like, yo, did you have to audition? Did Dick just take Jeffrey's word for it? But I didn't realize that he made you just stand up and sing for
Just
him.
sing.
And that got you that
down.
plane ticket and $500.
He didn't even make me stand up. I could sit down. I was sitting in the rocking chair.
Get out of here.
Yeah, man. It was very, very cool. There was only because they had, Jeffrey really wanted me to be, part of the group and stuff. And at the time they had one other guy, that they had in case I said no, because I had said no once before. But at that time they were like, when they had asked me before they had the Uptown Festival, they hadn't even done Take That to the Bank, and I was obligated to go back overseas, like I said, with the Beverly Hills group. And so like it was right timing for the whole thing.
Okay, so you guys, you're in Jersey, you do your thing out there. How long before y'all start recording your first album together?
Well, they were in the middle of the promotional tour, so I had to I worked the rest of the promotional tour with them. That was a couple months, and then went back home. It was about 2 or 3 months after I got with the group when we started. As soon as we got back home, we started working on the Big Fun album.
Oh, that's a great album.
Thank you.
That's a great album. You guys, Jody, Jeff, did y'all always get along from the beginning?
We got along from the beginning. It was like, we were so young though, man. We were young. I was like, I was like 23, about 24 maybe. Somewhere around there. Yeah, about 23, 24. And, I was just having fun. I was having a good time, and recording something I always wanted to do, and we were having great success with all the stuff. And yeah, we got along. We got along cool at that time in the beginning,
Nice. So y'all got a total of what? 4 albums together?
We did, 4 albums. It was Big Fun, 3 for Love, something else, another album. Then the
I know you
album.
got a Friends album and the Look album.
Friends album, and Look album. The Look album was the last album we did. Friends album was the one that blew up, basically over in the UK as well as here.
Okay, so at some point, I know the group disbands. Jody Watley and you have some type of disagreement. Like, what was that about?
It wasn't really, sometimes I ask myself the same question, man, what it was really all about. There was like a lot of, it was basically people growing up, you know what I'm saying? Growing up, and when you grow up, naturally you have other agendas that are going on as far as like in your life. Because everybody, even though you're a group, you're individual people as well. So, the whole situation as far as like Jody and I are concerned, I never truly, and I'm saying this with all honesty, I never really understood exactly what the whole situation was, but I knew that things that had happened within the group, it was a lot easier to say that she and I didn't get along than to really talk about things that actually happened in the group. Because a lot of people would ask me, they say, was that your lady or something? Was that your one? No, that was not, none of that. Never even approached that whole situation. Because at first, in the beginning of the whole situation, that was Jeffrey's woman. From Soul Train to the beginning, that was Jeffrey. Jeffrey and Jody were the item. They tried to play it down, but that was a whole nother story. It's crazy.
Wow. I read something at some point where you even asked Benny Medina if, he can get some intel and just figure out what it was that was, because she was upset. Did he ever come back to you with anything that he learned?
He came back because we were working on that. That's the time we did the for the Lover and You remake with LL Cool J and
Yep.
Face. And see, and even the way that whole thing came about, it was like I had gone to this function that Face's wife was doing, Tracy was doing. They were putting an artist out on her Yab Yum label. So like she called me and asked me if I wanted to come down, hang out, and she said Kenny will be there. You know, I hadn't seen Face in a long time. So I went there and hung out, and you know, Face and I talked, and he said, "Man, I'm working on my album in the studio at the record plant. You want to come down, come hang out whenever you want. You're welcome to come hang out." So one day, about a couple weeks later, I flew into LAX, and my flight got in at 3:00. I lived out in Calabasas at the time, so you know it was like in that time trying to get on the freeway. I left my car at the airport. It was like, you know, parking lot at that time. So I called. I had some time I wanted to take some time to let the traffic die down. So I called the studio and I told them that I was coming over there to hang out. And so like by the time I got there, Shalamar, his assistant, met me at the door. She says, you know, Kenny wants to see you, you know, back in the back office. So I go back there and he says, man, this is crazy. He says, it's like, you know, he and LL were trying to find some songs. They wanted to collaborate on something, but they weren't finding anything that they were feeling. And he said, as soon as you and I got off the phone, LL came in and he didn't even know we were on the phone. He said the first thing out of his mouth was, man, we should do a remake of that old Shalamar joint for the Lover and You. And Face says, man, Howard just called here. He's on his way down here to hang out now. So that's how that's how that whole thing came about. We started working on it that night. We did about 3 days, you know, put the track together. Great track. We had Shanice Wilson on there. We had this cat, Mark Nelson from As Yet. He was doing backgrounds and stuff. And so me and LL and Face had a meeting. I was getting ready to go back out on the road. And we had a meeting to talk about everything we had done. And I said, after we got finished talking about it, I said, but you know what would really make this thing pop, you know, especially publicity or PR-wise, is I said, if we brought Jody in to do some vocals, right? And because in the back of my mind, I'm saying, you know, okay, let's figure this out. Let's see, maybe during this time, I can figure out what she's pissed off about. And then, you know, maybe we can put this Shalamar reunion thing together. And so like, you know, she finally came in, long story short, she finally came in, did her part. And then they started talking about it being the first single. So, you know, first single, in my head, I'm saying first single that means there's going to be a video, right? Hype Williams, the cat Hype Williams back in the day, he did everybody's, he was directing the video. And I said, maybe we should bring Jeffrey in since it's going to be a visual thing. And he can start, you know, he can dance and do his thing and the whole thing. And all the time I'm thinking, you know, we can hash this thing out. And so like, man, we're sitting in there for the video and Jeffrey and I came, I hadn't talked to Jeffrey in like about 3 years or so, somewhere around there at that time. And so, you know, we're sitting and we're talking and we're saying, you know, figuring out, you know, just talking, we talked about stuff that went on back in the day, how we could hash it out, whatever. And then after about an hour, Hype comes in and he says, I just got off the phone with Jody and she refuses to come down here and and film with you guys, you know. So like I'm like sitting there, what the, you know, but I said, okay, cool. And but what happened, if you really look at that video and you see the three of us together, if you really look at it, you can see it was all meshed together because Jeffrey and I did our thing in front of the green screen. And then a couple of days later, Jody came in and did her thing in front of the green screen. So like, you know, that was a whole situation. But from then, Benny, because the first thing, whatever Face, you know, Face is amazing artist here in the States. But at that time, he hadn't even had never had a hit record in the UK, right? But Shalamar was huge in the UK. So once everybody started, locking into the fact that me, Jeffrey, and Jody were in the video and on the record, the whole thing, then it blew up. The single blew up in the UK. So I got a call from Benny one time, and they were in the UK doing promotion for the record over there. And he says, well, Kenny wants to do a Shalamar reunion album. And that was back in the day where everything that boy even looked at was like multi-platinum.
It's out of here.
It was crazy. He didn't have, So like I said, well, I'm down, as long as I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and everybody's treated fairly, I'm cool. I'm good. I said, but the one you got to talk to is Jody. And so he says, well, I've been talking to Jody and blah, 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 blah. I said, well, you've been talking to Jody, why is she mad at me? She talked about, why is she mad at me? I mean, I can see her being mad every place else, but why is she mad at me, right? And he says that there was a point right when we were breaking up, and she said that you guys got into an argument in front of this hotel in the UK where you used to, in London where you used to stay when you would go there. And I remember the hotel, it's called the Blake Hotel. And I remember the argument. We came there, Jeffrey and Jody were coming there to tell me about myself, and I wouldn't want to really hear about it, you know what I'm saying? So we got into this big argument. And he said that when you were arguing in the midst of the argument, he said she said that you told her she would never be shit without Shalamar. And so I started kind of laughing. I said, well, I'm not, I can't remember whether I said that or not, and I said, but even for the sake of this argument, if I did say that, if we were in the midst of an argument and I said you would never be shit without Shalamar, I said, isn't success the best revenge? You know what I'm saying?
Because she blew.
Because she blew up.
Her solo career, she blew.
I'm looking for a new love. Blew up. Klein was screaming up the charts. The album was screaming up the charts. Do great. At that time, it should have been, now what, nigga? Now what? And at that time, that should have been her attitude towards me if she was mad at me about that. And when I heard that, I kind of put two and two together, man, and realized that she's not really mad at me. You know what I'm saying? It's easier for her to say that she's mad at me, that we don't get along, Clash of the Titans and stuff like she used to say. But if she, as far as everything else that went down between her and the relationship with the other member of the group, as well as other people in our camp, when stuff went down, when the things that went down, that's what she's mad about.
So over the years, have y'all ever had a chance to sit down and talk face to face?
We sat down. We never sat down one-on-one. We've never sat down one-on-one.
Okay, we're at the tail end of 2021.
Yes. This
is going back to the late 80s.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are you telling me in the last 30 plus years?
Never.
Wow.
Never. We've never sat down face to face. And to like Jeffrey and I tour now. We tour overseas every year. Jeffrey and I do shows overseas. And when we first started doing it, we got the offer to do about 5 shows over in Asia about 20 years or so ago. And we called Jody. We called Jody, said, hey, we got an offer, do this, blah, 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 blah. You want to come over, come with us, let's go do some of the old stuff, have some fun, make some money, And her thing was like, nah, I don't think I really want to revisit that part of my life. And to myself, I'm saying, you mean your legacy? You don't want to revisit your legacy? This is what has enabled you to do. It's enabled me to do what I'm doing now. That was our stepping stone. That was our beginning. That's our legacy. That's her legacy. That's Jeffrey's legacy. That's my legacy. But I didn't say that because that would open up a whole nother can of worms. So, but then Jeffrey and I went and did the shows, just the two of us with the band. And then we did some stuff in Africa. We did some other stuff in the UK. And then we finally wanted to bring the female entity back into the group. So that's when we brought Carolyn Griffey into the group, Dick Griffey's daughter.
Okay, so I want to go backwards for a little bit. At some point, we just discussed it. Jeff and Jody leave the group,
Mm-hmm.
get replaced by Mickey Free and Delisa Davis.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mickey Free, he was portrayed as a character on Charlie Murphy's True Hollywood Stories.
We just watched this. We watched it the other day.
Are you serious?
Yeah. But I'm gonna tell you, and that, like you're saying, it was a character on Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle was a Prince situation.
Playing basketball against Prince.
It was a Charlie Murphy Hollywood Stories or something like that.
True Hollywood
Stories. What's crazy about that is the day after that because that actually happened. That happened. The day.
Okay, was you around for that?
I didn't go. I wasn't there. They met up at this place called that everybody used to go to called El Provados down at Carlos and Charlie's down on Sunset Boulevard. Yeah, every Monday night, everybody used to hang out there. Rick James, Prince, everybody. And for some reason, I didn't go there that night. I think I might have been. I don't know what was happening. I didn't go that night. But the next day, Mickey calls me and tells me, man, we saw a short, we used to call him Short Cat, right? We saw a Short Cat, up at El Provados, and they invited us up to the house. And he was with Prince. And he said we saw Eddie and Charlie. They saw Eddie and Charlie Murphy. They invited them up to the house to go play. And then once they got up there, listen to music and all that. And then Prince says you want to play some basketball. And Mickey said, man, he said he came out because Eddie and them got, basketball ready. You know what I'm saying? The gear, everything. And so, and then Prince came out in his heels, still in his heels.
Yo, get out of here.
And jam. That boy, he could ball. He could seriously ball, man. In his heels, almost dunking. He was short, but he was trying to dunk, from what I understand, But yeah, Mickey told me about it after they got done. He said, I'll make some pancakes. It was funny, man. But that was anybody that wonders if that really happened. Mickey called me the next day after it actually happened. It's a true story.
And so we used to go out all the time to this one hot spot in LA, a few of them. And Prince would always be there. I'd have my little table. Prince has his table. Eddie Murphy has his table. And we all used to talk and hang out and stuff. And Prince would have people come up to his house after the clubs would close to hear new records, to hang with him or whatever. And I'd been there a couple times, but on that particular night, Eddie Murphy and his crew came. And it was Prince and I, and at the time, my wife, who was an actress named Terry Copley. And we were sitting there, and Prince said, let's play basketball. And I'm like, what? And Prince's brother was with us, who was a huge, tall guy, basketball player. So we went out in Beverly Hills to the court, Eddie Murphy, Charlie Murphy, and Uncle Ray, me and Prince's brother, and those were the teams. And I took the ball out, and Prince said, give me the ball back. And I was like, okay. And Eddie Murphy's looking at me like, oh yeah, Free, it's on. I'm like, because I'm like, we're in our street clothes, bro. Remember, we just came from the club.
Okay.
So we're in our street clothes. So Prince said, give me the ball back. And I swear to you guys listening, wherever you're going to be, Prince took the ball, and it was like Michael Jordan after that. Shot after shot, like nothing but net. And I looked at Eddie, and I was like, oh yeah. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And after we were done, true story, Prince's cook at the time, her name was Randy, cooked us pancakes. Blouses.
Okay, so Mickey told you out of his own mouth, Prince was playing ball in one of them puffy shirts he used to wear with a pair of heels on.
His high heels, his heels, man. It was crazy. But that's a thing. I mean, and if you look at his history, he was on basketball teams, I guess, in high school, junior high school. Man, he was a baller. He was a serious baller.
Okay, so now with Mickey Free in the group and Delisa Davis, y'all score Dancing in the Sheets.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it makes it onto the Footloose soundtrack, correct?
Yeah.
Dancing. And you guys actually won a Grammy.
The Grammy was for Beverly Hills Cop, actually.
Excuse me.
The Beverly Hills Cop, yeah. But at the time when I was approached about Footloose by this cat Dean Pitchford, who he wrote all the music in there. He asked if Leon and I would come down to Paramount Studio, Leon Silvers, and I would come down to Paramount Studios to check out a rough cut of this movie that he's doing. So we go down there and watch the movie. They had temporary music in, where they wanted music and stuff, and where they wanted dancing, where he wanted the Shalamar situation. He told us when it was coming up, and so like we watched the rest of the movie and stuff, and so like we're walking back to the car, back to the parking lot where we were parked. And so I asked Leon, I said, well, what do you think? And Leon says, man, I got a lot of stuff on my plate right now. He said, and I don't think it's going to be a big movie. You know what I'm saying? And so like he says, I got a lot of stuff on my plate now. I think I'm going to pass on it. And he said, what do you think? I said, well, at this point, where the shape of the state of the group was that I was the only one in the group, at that time. This is before Dancing in the Sheets came about before Mickey and Delisa got into the group, actually. So I was the only one in the group. When Jeffrey and Jody split, I told Dick Griffey, I said, man, maybe this would be a great time for me to do, a solo joint, and Dick's whole thing was, well, you got 2.5, 3 years left on this contract. So you can either spend it doing nothing, ride it out, or you can go to court and try and get out of it. You can move overseas like Jeffrey and Jody did. He said, or you can do another Shalamar album, right? And so like, I don't like court. Court's like throwing dice, man. Just like you go in there, you may win, you may not win. And in the meantime, the only thing definite about court is that you're going to spend a bunch of money. And so like, I said, no, I'm not going to go to court. I'll do another album. I made another deal to do another album. But before we even started the album, that's when Dean Pitchford got in touch with us. And so Leon asked me, he said, well, what do you think? I said, well, in the state that the group's in, I think it would be a good look to be a part. Because even though I said, I don't think it's going to be a big movie either, but at least it's going to be like, like promoted by Paramount and all that kind of stuff. So like, I thought it would be a good look considering the state that the group was in, which is just me. So brought in this cat, Bill Woofer. Bill Woofer produced Dancing in the Sheets. So like, it went on to be this huge song. I mean, one of the beginnings of the soundtrack, phenomenon that was going on at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a huge song.
Huge song. It was Dancing in the Sheets was the second biggest selling single Shalamar ever had. The first being second time around. Yeah.
Nice. Very nice. So eventually you do embark on your own solo career.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wrote the contract out.
You wrote it out.
Did another Shalamar album, which was Heartbreak, and I think we put Dancing in the Sheets on there as well. And so I wrote the contract out. And when it was done, I had to go. I went to Elektra, straight on to Elektra Records, which was not my first choice by no means.
Yeah, I was about to ask you that. It's a two-part question. Most people who are in groups, they all have aspirations to go solo. Mm-hmm. Whenever a group blows up, you always see the lead singer eventually at some point, want to go solo. So was that always your aspiration? And then secondly, why didn't Dick keep you on Solar?
Well, first of all, first part of your question, yeah, I mean that had always been a thing in my head, as far as going solo. What that looked like, what format that was in, as far as whether it be just go solo and leave the group. But my whole thing was always that you could do the group as well. You can go solo, you can still have the group, come back and do a thing with the group. Boy, New Edition did it perfectly, with people going off and doing other stuff, but then coming back and doing New Edition. So that had always been like an aspiration to go solo, to do that, but how that was going to come about, I didn't know how that was going to come. The second part of your question was what? What was it?
Why didn't Dick just keep you on Solar? Why didn't he just offer you a deal? I mean, clearly you're a big star, part of a major group. Why not just say, look, you're not going nowhere. Let me cut the check.
I don't know. I can't tell you that. I really can't tell you. I just rolled the contract out. When I got done, when it was done, when there was no renewing as far as that part, that particular situation, if I ran it out, then, then I could go where. Well, I couldn't go wherever I wanted to go, because the agreement that Elektra had with Solar was that everything that came off of Solar, they had to have first rights of refusal,
because they were distributing.
They were distribution company,
mm-hmm.
and so like at the time, Elektra was like, I mean, they had the Eagles over there. That was it. That was before they had, Nita Baker, anybody, right? So they were cold as ice. It was like, that was the last place I really wanted to go. And so like my attorney said, well, we got to go through them before we can go through anybody else, first rights of refusal. So I said, I started thinking, I said, well, if it's first rights, so that means that they have to refuse. We take them a deal and they have to, and they refuse it. If they refuse it, then I can go anywhere else I want to go. He said, yeah, correct. I said, well, why don't we make this deal like so ridiculous, so crazy, money-wise, bump-wise, everything, bump-wise, money-wise. Why don't we roll like that? Why don't we deal like that? He said, hey, okay, that's it. We put some stuff in that contract, man, that was like crazy, especially for even though I was proven as a lead singer of the group, I hadn't been proven as a solo artist. I mean, there's a lot more than just singing that goes with this whole thing, So my attorney and I, we put some stuff in there, put the money at a certain point, and when we sold a certain amount of albums, it bump up to this and bump up to that, the whole thing. We took it to Elektra, and Bob Krasnow at the time was head of Elektra, God rest his soul, and we took it to him, and he said, "Okay, what else you want?" And I was like, "Oh, snap!" It's like he agreed. He agreed to everything. He agreed to everything.
So I mean, you don't have to go into numbers, but the check was nice. You're looking at a check.
Check was very nice, very nice. half when we get started. And then the other half when I hand the project in, and then all the other stuff. It was a bunch
of different bumps. I'm assuming
it was a bump here for everything. Everything was a bump, and they agreed to every single situation as far as that contract was concerned. But it turned out cool. I mean, Elektra did a great job. But I always equated being with Elektra. I equated it to, you having a 12-cylinder car, and you're only running on 6 cylinders. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Because they did a great job as far as like on the R&B side, but the pop department never came to the party the whole time I was with Elektra. The only pop play I got was on my own strength, on the Shalamar strength and all that stuff. But the pop department making a conscious effort to okay, we're going to take Howard and do this and da, 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 da. but they never did that. But the R&B, the urban department, made Howard Hewett like a household name. It was cool.
Yeah, that's always one of the dangers of signing with a major. When you're on an independent, they got every reason in the world for you to succeed. So there's a lot of focus on breaking these acts, but they can't take you pop. But when you sign to a major label, the checks are a lot bigger, but the pop departments can never seem, no matter how well you do on the urban side, they just can't seem to pick up the ball and cross you over.
Yeah.
It's,
and at
I
that
don't
time,
understand why it's so difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, back at that time, it was like it was crazy because by the time we were into the I forget which, I think it was the second album or whatever. By that time they had Anita Baker, right? And so like they were pushing her on the pop side. And I'm saying, well, y'all could push, well, we can only work one black artist on the pop side at a time. I said, what's that about? I said, what, you dealing with flower child mentality. It's like, I went to the pop department one time and just laid into the guy. And when I left, by the time I left, my manager, I forget who was managing me at that time, but he called me and said, Bob Krasnow just called and said, please don't go to the pop department anymore because, but hey man, it was really, as far as, cause they can't tell me that I'm For Real wouldn't have been a good pop song. They couldn't tell me Once, Twice, Three Times or Show Me or all that couldn't have been good, couldn't have made it on the pop side. They were great pop songs, and what makes me mad about some people is that at the end, when everything's said and done, then somebody wants to come to you and say, oh, well, you know what? Maybe you were right. No, don't tell me maybe I was right now. Let's talk about what's happening, when it's happening, and that was the only problem that I had with Elektra, and it was just with the pop department. But as far as everything else is concerned, they did an amazing job. And when you talk about independent, at that time there was no independent situation. There was people. The independent situation was not something that you really wanted to dive into because it was like the whole thing about being with a major is the deep pockets. They got deep pockets to go in there and like do what they need to do, as far as promotion, as far as like, you had to be real careful because, a lot of people thought that they were giving you this money to do it. They don't give you nothing. They give you nothing. You get your recoupment sheet, from the whole thing. You see every little detail that's on there, everything, so, it was amazing experience.
So you signed your first solo deal. What is this, around 85?
85, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk to you. I'm not sure if you had signed your deal at this time or you're in the midst of signing it, but you and your fiance at the time go through an ordeal which you lovingly call your Miami experience.
Man, you've been doing your homework, boy. Because I thought I was going to lay that one on you. I said, yeah, that was my Miami. It was a misunderstanding between me and the U.S. government.
Okay, had you signed your solo deal at this point?
Had not signed it. We were in Miami at the time for Christmas and New Year's, right? Because her family lived in Miami. Great family. I mean, great family. Her dad was a doctor. Her mom was a great, stay-at-home mom, the whole, housewife thing. And so we were going there. And at that time, I loved Miami. Miami Vice was like happening. And like, and I love that whole tropical Hispanic mix that they had down there, and so like we spent a lot of time in Miami, and so like we were there. We had done all the paperwork and everything for the new deal with Elektra. And we said that, okay, we'll after the holidays, we'll come back. When you get back home after the New Year's, the Christmas, New Year's holiday, you'll come back, and that's when we'll sign the contracts. And then that's when that whole thing went down. Before then, it was a serious test of my faith, in God, Christ, the Holy Spirit. That's why nobody can tell me nothing as far as like which way I go as far as my spirituality and my beliefs are concerned. Because I'm telling you, man, it was a situation almost where, those old cartoons where you have the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other shoulder. And it's like, and they're just, it's like, man, you done, excuse my language, you done fucked up now. There ain't nobody gonna believe you didn't have nothing to do with this. You started because it was like trying to be guilt by association. You know what I'm saying?
So what was the actual charges like that they laid on you?
Conspiracy. And they were trying to get me on a conspiracy charge, which was like such a bogus situation anyway. If they are, say, just for instance, if they're investigating me and they're building up, evidence against me because I deal drugs, right? And then I come and get you and say, hey man, let's go, grab a bite to eat, go to a movie, whatever, And during that time that you and I are hanging out, they bust me, but you're with me. So if they can get a conspiracy charge to stick to you as far as like try you on conspiracy, they can use everything that they've been building up on me against you. So everything gels in. So the counts, it was something like 5 counts or something. I think it was altogether like the whole time, the whole situation added up to something like 60-something years, that they could.
What was your fiance's charges?
Same, because they were.
So both of y'all had conspiracy charges.
No. They got me on they tried me on a conspiracy charge, but everything that they were trying, the individual charges were the charges they had against her. She had a case in Miami and a case. They were checking her out in Miami and in Tampa, Florida. So I was just there, man. I was there.
Howard, I got to cut in here. How long did you know this woman?
2 years.
You knew her for 2 years.
2 years, yep.
And this woman is, I don't know, is she moving weight? Is it weed? Is it, what is,
no.
You didn't see none of this?
I saw in the beginning, but then kind of, turned away from it for a minute, put down my stipulations as far as that was concerned, because some of her contacts and stuff over in Miami, family relatives and stuff were steep in that type of business, but not not immediate family, but, so I put my stipulations down, but then I just started having fun, man. It was like, and most of the time I was on the road. Like she had her own place in LA, but she would stay at my place most of the time. But most of the time I was on the road. I was on the road like at that time, so sometimes like 8, 9, 10 months out the year,
So you're clearly a celebrity at this time. They know who you are. Do you think just by proxy of who you are, they bring you in on this case because you're a big fish? Because
who I was. They didn't even know I was going to be there. When they were getting ready to come down on her, they didn't know I was going to be there. It was something that I had, and this is the last time, I always told myself, this is the last time I would ever insist on anything. Because it was like, she had come in, and she was getting ready to go back out. And I was, because we had stayed at her parents' house when we went to Miami. And so I told her, I said, well, because she was going to return a car that we would use when we would go in there, return it to her friend. And so I told her, I said, well, wait a minute, I'll follow you in your dad's car, we'll go have some lunch. And it was like, well, no, that's okay. And then it was like, no, well, no, because this was a situation where, we were up under each other. She was up under me all the time. So it was like to say, no, wait, no. I said, no, I insist. I'll get some clothes on. We'll go to get some lunch after you return the car. And that's when we went to Dade Mall, man. And that's when everything went down. And it was like, it was crazy. It was like a surreal situation. She had gone to the car across the aisle, and then she came back to say something to me and stuck her head in the window to say something to me because I was in her dad's car. And as soon as she stopped, she didn't even get anything out. As soon as she stuck her head in the window, they came, everybody came, all the DEA agents, everything. They drugged me out of the car, right? This one cat drugged me out of the car, threw me on top of the hood of the car, had the pistol up against my head. His partner sitting there with another pistol pointed at me. And he says, "Where are the keys?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Where are the keys?" I said, "The keys are in the car." He said, "Where in the car?" I said, "The keys are in the ignition switch. They're in the car." I didn't know. He says, "Oh, you're a smart ass," right? And then when he said that, I said, "Oh, okay." And then that's when I got really small.
Because that's what I'm about to ask you. At what point did you realize, because for all you know, y'all are getting robbed right now. Like, I'm assuming that they come, go ahead.
They had DEA written on their back, so I knew we weren't getting robbed.
So you knew, okay. So at what point are you saying to yourself, well, what could this be for? Like, they got us all wrong.
At that point, when he said, "Where are the keys?" And I said, "The keys are in the car." "Where in the car?" I said, "In the ignition switch." So I'm thinking he's talking about keys to start the car up. You know what I'm saying? And that's when he said, "Oh, you're a smart ass. You're a smart ass." And when he said that, I knew there's only two keys, only two kind of keys you can have: something to open the door, start a car, or keys of cocaine, one or the other. So they were talking about keys of cocaine, which I didn't know anything about that. So, it was crazy.
Now, are you sitting there saying to yourself, after you get to the precinct, like, damn, my career is blown? Like, are you worried about your career? Or are you just thinking about your freedom? Like, where are you at this point?
I'm thinking about freedom, career, everything. Because, like I said, at that time, all the papers were ready for me to sign as soon as I got back. As soon as I signed these papers, half of that big chunk of money that we had negotiated would be given to me as far as that's concerned. So that, and I could start on my first solo album. So like that's what I'm talking about. Well, on the way to that, because it wasn't a jail. I never saw bars, but it was a holding facility. MCC or something like that. So on the way there, finally, I'm in the back of the car with my hands behind my back, the whole thing. And I finally got I asked the guys, and it was the two guys that had drugged me out the car. And they were I said, "Well, where are you taking me now?" Because there was a whole bunch of stuff going on in Miami at that time where policemen were killing drug dealers, taking their drugs and their money and the whole thing. So I said, "Well, where are you taking me?" He said, "Oh, you're taking me to MCC or something like that." And so I said, "What is it? Is it jail or something?" He said, "No, it's just a holding facility." He said, "You'll probably have, your own room to yourself, And so I said, "That's cool, because I don't need to be roommates with nobody tonight." You know what I'm saying? And when we got down, long story short, got down and started processing in, right? And all this time, Shawn, I'm serious. Lord, I'm like, my focus is like, okay, Lord, me and you. It's like, this is the way this is going down. You know what I'm saying? So like, they when they started processing in, there was about 11 other cats, that were being processed. So I was not in the mood to be first for anything. So I was in the back of the line, right? So I'm in the back of the line, and the cat starts saying, the guy starts saying, okay, you and you got a room such and such. You and you, room such and such. And I'm saying to myself, oh man, I'm gonna be in with somebody. I looked at the cat next to me. I said, I'm gonna be in the room with this nigga. Boy, it's like, and so when it got to, seriously, when it got to me and this cat, he says, okay, you and you. And before he could even stop, the guy says, I don't feel well. And the officer says, what do you mean you don't feel well? He says, I don't know, my stomach, I don't feel well. And he says, well, you want to go into the infirmary? He says, yeah, I want to go to the infirmary. So he calls the cat over, taking him to the infirmary. He looks, he points at me. He said, okay, you got a room to yourself tonight, right? And it
God
was
is good.
God all the time. That's
God
what I'm
is
saying,
good.
man. That's what I'm saying. And so, like, I went into the room, man, and it was like I said, it was almost like, one thing on my shoulder saying, you done messed up now, boy. You ain't nobody gonna believe you ain't had nothing to do with you. You ain't gonna sign the Bob crash now, blah, 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 lecture, whatever. And then on the other shoulder is my angel saying, okay, what do you believe in? Do you believe in what's happening here? You believe in all this? Is this what you are like believing in, or do you believe in what you say you believe in? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, man, and it wasn't until we went through it, the I Commit to Love album, that whole album was done with this whole thing hanging over my head, because my attorney, who I had this amazing attorney down there, and this guy named Richard Sharpstein, he's passed away as well. But it was like we kept postponing everything until I finished the album. So everything, Say Amen, I'm For Real, all that stuff is like done with this whole situation hanging over my head.
What was it like recording now? Because, just for anybody who didn't catch that, your first album, your first solo album is entitled I Commit to Love.
Mm-hmm.
And it had the hits on it, I'm For Real and Stay.
Stay.
You also had
and Say Amen.
A gospel record on there that really did well, Say Amen.
Say Amen, right.
What was it like for you? You're this huge R&B celebrity. You got a trial pending and you got to go in and record. Like, what is that experience like?
Focus. You know what I'm saying? That's all I can say. You had to focus on it. Had to keep your spirit up. You know what I'm saying? As far as like what you believe in, God, Christ, the Holy Spirit. Figure out different things as far as like, like I said, just focus. Focus on what you're doing, and just believe that this is gonna work itself out in some way. It took a lot of money to work it out, you know what I'm saying? But money, the best money I ever spent, as far as that's concerned. There was a time during the trial, because once I finished the album, then we said, okay, we're gonna go full speed into the trial to get this thing over with. And it was a 4-day trial. And I remember the second day, about the second or third day, it was late at night, just like, just nerves crazy, you know what I'm saying? Couldn't sleep that night. And I got up, it was about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got up, and the house where I was staying in had an atrium, outdoor atrium outside, was screened in. I got up, I took my Bible out to that atrium. I put the Bible on the floor, and I stood on the Bible. I said, Lord, I'm literally standing on your word. Literally standing on your word. I have no control over this. I mean, I've never seen all the loopholes that can be done as far as like the law is concerned, the loopholes in the law and all that kind of stuff. And they things that people can say and make it into something that it wasn't anything. Mm-hmm. I said, I'm standing on your word. If you want me to go to prison, I said, You know, there's a whole bunch of people in prison that didn't do what they're in prison, you know, for. And I said, I'm not any different than anybody else. And I said, if you want me to go to prison, there must be something that you want me to learn, a person you want me to touch, a person you want to touch me, whatever it is. I said, right now, whatever it is, I'm leaving it in your hands. I got to give it up to you because there's nothing I can do about this. Nothing. And we went through the next, you know, couple of days of trial. And then, long story short, when it gave it to the jury deliberated for about an hour and a half or so. They had an hour lunch at that time. So they deliberated actually about 30, 35, 40 minutes and came back not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. You know.
What about your fiance?
She didn't even go to trial because they had her
dead to rights.
Dead to rights, you know.
How much time did she get?
She only did like 2 years, 2.5 years.
Okay, so I'm assuming y'all never walked down the aisle.
Oh, we did.
Oh yeah. So you wound up waiting for her married her?
We did. I was like, my mom, God bless her. She was like, boy, you know, because she didn't. She wasn't her favorite person anyway. You know, the whole time we were together. But there was a thing where we were engaged before. How do you say, okay, you know, I'm gonna be cool. We're gonna still get married, but I'll wait till you get done with what you got to do, and before we do that, you know, I'm a romantic, man.
You are one hell of a romantic.
I'm a romantic. You know what I'm saying? What can I say? It's like, you know, but, you know, because we were engaged. We, you know, I loved her. I wouldn't have put a ring on her finger if I didn't love her.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a little different there. That's a love story.
There's a whole lot of stuff. I know. A lot of people have all their opinions about it. Oh, he married her so she wouldn't testify against him. That ain't the case. That's in the movies. They can still testify against your behind, even if you married or whatever, you know. But no, it's like, hey, you know, I'm a romantic, man. That's the only thing I can crack it up to be. You know what I'm saying?
Well, put it this way: it all worked out in your favor.
Yeah.
You know, the "I Commit to Love" album, it goes platinum.
Mm-hmm.
Couple of years later, you put out your second album, that goes gold. And you have a huge monster hit on it once, twice, three times.
Yep. Yeah.
So you kind of riding high at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just listening to your story is cracking me up because these are things you don't expect.
I know. Hey. You know what I'm saying? This is you put things in the Lord's hands, then you figure out how amazing He is as far as, and so many people now is like, I mean, this interview you're doing and you're asking about, and I know you're asking about because it's an in-depth thing. This is an in-depth interview, but that thing never comes up, man. It never comes up. You know, nobody ever says anything about it.
Let me ask you, I should have asked you this earlier. While you were going through it, I mean, people tend to show you their true colors. Mm-hmm. You know, when your back is against the wall, you're going to have some people who ride with you, and you're going to have some people who convict you even before all the evidence is out. I want to keep my distance from you. Mm-hmm. A lot of your famous friends, how did they treat you during that time?
You know what? It's like when I say friends, especially in situations like that, that's a deep word. You know what I'm saying? Friend. You know, man, when we were going through the whole thing, I was being arraigned, right? And so like my attorney was saying, okay, you don't have a case, you never had a case, you know, before. So they'll probably release you on your own recognizance, no bail, nothing, right? So we go through the arraignment. And man, you know, the judge says, okay, what was it, $500 $500,000 or $1 million bail, whatever. I forget what it was. And then we had to talk to this bail bondsman, company that my attorney had gotten together. It was a father and a son company. So like I'm in there, the father is out there in the hallway talking to my attorney, and I'm in this little room. This is after arraignment and everything. I'm in this little room, and the son is taking all this information. I mean, he said, okay, we got in touch. We got a call from Norby Walters. Who was Norby Walters? I said, Norby Walters is the agent that I've been dealing with since Shalamar. Well, he called. He said, whatever he needs, cash-wise, whatever, just let him know. He'll get it down there. George Duke had a house. He had his house, and he had another house next door to him that he had bought. He said, this guy George Duke called. He wants to put his house up for collateral. For your, if you need collateral, because the thing I had a condo that I had only been in for about a year and a half, 2 years or whatever. So the equity in the condo was like not happening. But George called, said, hey, if he needs me to put my house up for collateral, boom, put it up. People start coming out the woodwork, man. He said, people are coming out the woodwork to, said, a lot of people like you. I said, yeah, a lot of people like me, and then, he said something else, or he said that we were at the end of the day. He said, we gotta verify all this stuff, so we won't be able to get you out of here tonight, but we'll be able to get you out of here first thing in the morning, right? And I told him, I said, my regular thing to everybody is whenever I said, hey, thank you, man. God bless you, And he said, God bless you too. He said, you a Christian? I said, yeah, I'm a Christian. He said, well, where do you go to church? And I told him, I said, well, when I'm at home, I'm on the road a lot, but when I'm at home, I go to Crenshaw Christian Center, right? And he said, Crenshaw, Fred Price? He said, Fred Price, Crenshaw Christian Center? I said, yeah. He said, man, I love Fred Price. He said, I love it. And he started doing, I love when he says, when you know what you know, what you know, what you know, that you know how Fred used to do. And so like he opened the door. He said, Daddy, come here. He said, when he goes to church at Crenshaw Christian Center, and his father started talking about Fred Price. I love Fred Price, right? And he did that. I know, the whole thing. And then he stopped. He said, son, you just wait. We're going to have you out of here in 45 minutes.
Tell me God ain't good.
All the time. I was out 45 minutes. Caught the first thing smoking out of Miami. It was crazy. And then it was like, but and the other thing about, because I always look at that, people look at it as, oh, that was a terrible time. No, it really wasn't. It was terrible as far as, don't get me wrong. I mean, I can't sit here and say that wasn't a jacked up situation. But like in realizing where I stood as a child of God and the things that went down as far as people that came out of the woodwork to stand by my side. When you talk about people that shunned away or whatever, I just looked at those people as, those people ain't supposed to be in my life anyway. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't have a whole lot of people actually that shunned away. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at it, man, and you look at the things, all the blessings that came from it, and the faith, like I said, test of my faith, which was one of the most important things, because at that point, after that point, nobody can tell me that faith doesn't work. Nobody can tell me that prayers don't work. Praying does not work. Praying is not this or praying is not that. Prayer changes things for real. And so like, and then when, even as far as say amen is concerned, I knew that this was before everything even went down in Miami. I knew that say amen, I wanted that to be my inspirational song on the album, because this was a promise that I made to the Lord, a couple years before I left the group, that whenever I was by myself, whenever I was solo, what I promised him, I said, Lord, I promise I will honor you on every solo album, everything and everything that I say. And so, like, I remember talking to the new record company, Elektra, and talking to the new management company I had. And I said, hey, I sat down. I remember having it. Like I said, this is way before that stuff happened. And I sat down and shook everybody's hands. And I said, well, first of all, I'm happy to be, embarking on my solo album, at this time. I said, but I just want to let you know, I want to do a song to the Lord on this album, right? And man, you could hear a pin drop in there. It was like they were, and this is 85, this is 1985. So like I understood what they were talking about. Nobody had done. Denise would do a gospel album, but she would do an R&B album. She never combined the two. You know what I'm saying? So this was like, I was saying, I want to do a song to the Lord. I want to put an inspirational song, because I call it Say Amen inspirational rather than gospel. But I want to do an inspirational song on an R&B album, right? Man, this cat started, finally this one cat starts talking. He says, well, we want to take your career in the sex symbol direction. Might not be conducive to, to gospel, to inspirational music, religious music. And then this other guy starts talking. People in my management start talking, because I hadn't even talked to them about it. And then I stopped them. And then when they got done, I said, okay, well, maybe I just approached this the wrong way. I hear what you're saying, and I understand. Nobody's ever done this, combine the two. And I said, but maybe I just approached this the wrong way. I said, just let me go back and let me say, I'm going to do a song to the Lord on this album, because my promise to him is way more, and way more important. I didn't say important, because I'm trying to walk that line too, where like, they still gotta promote my stuff. So I don't want to, be like, turn everybody into whatever, into a negative situation. I said, but my promise to the Lord is way more important than the direction that you think my solo career should go. I said, without him, there would not even be a career, so let me just say I'm going to do a song. And then, everything transpired as far as Say Amen is concerned,
Yeah, I mean, your career obviously kept on a high. Even after Say Amen, you dropped a few more solo projects. You got one of your biggest records, Show Me, which so many people know you for, in 1990. But just listening to you, it's clear as day that your faith is real.
For real,
This
yeah.
is not just something that you talk. Obviously, you live it.
Mhm.
And in 2001, you put out a full, I don't know if I
Inspiration.
want to call it now a gospel album or an inspiration album, just to use your words, but
Yeah.
The Journey.
Yeah,
And
The
then you
Journey.
followed it up with another album, The Journey Live from the Heart.
Right.
So you went full on into your faith with no cares about, this is just where I'm at.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. The journey was, I call it sometimes, it was something that I wanted to do. And let me clarify also, when I talk about inspirational and gospel, I have mad respect for gospel. But gospel is a whole nother type of emotion that's put out there. When you talk about gospel, you're talking about James Cleveland, you're talking about Shirley Caesar, you're talking about those quartets and everything, those gospel quartets, Highway QCs and the Pilgrim Jubilees, all those guys, Volunteers, everybody. That's a whole nother type of emotion. Whereas inspirational is more of a subtle thing of like, of trying to inspire another way of thinking, as far as like, let me suggest this, Say Amen. Let me suggest this. Say Amen to me was like an ultimate, like the ultimate praise song. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but I'd always wanted to do a full inspirational album, but I went through what I call my Jonas syndrome, where I ran away from it for a long time. But the Lord always has a way of turning us back to where He wants us to be and where we should be. And so I found I connected with this lady, Raina Bundy, and she had a company called Harmony that was distributed by Epic at the time, and she is seriously, she and her husband Bob, they're seriously God-fearing, God relating type of people. So once we connected, I knew that's where I wanted to do. And there's some amazing stuff on that album. That album, it did well, but what I love is that, you can those things can just sell forever and ever and ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before I let you go, gotta ask, you've been married, and this is just a question I personally have. You've been married 4 times.
Well, I say I've been married 4 times. I've been married 4 times, but I've only had 3 marriages.
Okay. Why so many marriages? What is Howard Hewett getting wrong so I can figure out what to get right?
You know what? I don't know, man. It's like, and it has to be me. I'm the only common factor in that whole situation. So I can't say that she was wrong or she was wrong or she was wrong. I'm the only nigga in there that's like the same one. It's me. So and when I say 4 marriages, because Maury, the lady that went through the whole thing with, when we got married when she was allowed to come into the state of California and gather her things. We got married, then she split. So we never culminate. We that's basically, we kind of annulled that whole thing. So, because we never lived together as husband and wife. So but I had 3 marriages. That marriage, anybody can get married, you know what I'm saying? But having a marriage is a whole nother thing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Having a marriage when when you're going through life and you're going through stuff together, that's the thing. That's what a marriage is. So but I can't tell you, man. I mean, I think I'm a great guy.
I'm sure you do. I'm gonna get some of your ex-wives on here and ask them if they agree.
We're all of us are friends now. All of us are friends. Yeah. Not tight friends. I mean, my youngest daughter's mom, which we were together the longest. We were together like 16 years, and so she's one of my best friends now. It's very cool. So you can get them in here; they'll talk about me.
What are you working on these days, Howard? What should we know?
Man, I'm right now working. I just put a new single out called "To Thee I Pray," and it's like we have the single and the video that's out now. And "To Thee I Pray" is actually a song that I wrote. I wrote the lyrics to 30 years ago. Over a little 30 plus years ago. And unfortunately, the lyrics still ring true today. And I say unfortunately because it's a song that's calling for us to look at the way that we treat each other. How are we treating each other? How are we, dealing as far as this whole thing? And one of the lyrics is, "Comes a time in life when we make a stand, put down your gun and take your brother's hand. After all the pain, I know no other way. To thee I pray." And I wrote those lyrics, like I said, 30 plus years ago, but we're still treating each other like crap now. We're still treating each other with disrespect now. What our government is going through as far as this whole situation is I've never seen anything like this before. I've never seen this type of attitudes that are callous type of attitudes that some members of our government are dealing with at this time. Both parties have stuff that they need to get in check, but we're talking about Republican Party. I don't, without getting into a whole bunch of, particular politics right now, I don't know what the deal is with them as far as the some of the stances that they've taken. You know, we had the cat Kyle Rittenhouse that got, that was acquitted. Which I can understand him being acquitted because the prosecution didn't come with the A game to, as far as like to put somebody away for the rest of their lives or put somebody into put to death. You got to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that person did that thing that they're talking about, and that the situation was the way that it was, and they didn't do that. And plus when they had the one guy that got the one cat that he blew his arm off, he shot his arm off, but the cat got up on the stand and said, hey, he didn't shoot me until I pointed my gun at him, which is self-defense, self-defense. So like, but when you have, people from the Republican Party talking about, oh, we should get in touch with him. He could be a great intern. We'll hire him. What kind of stuff is that? You're going to hire him as an intern because he murdered some people, he killed some people, he still killed some people. We don't know what the deal is. No matter what the deal is, let him live his life, but don't bring him into the politics of the whole thing. But when you had that type of when you had that type of mentality with the Matt Gaetzes and the one QAnon lady that's in there, it's some crazy stuff that's happening now. So To Thee I Pray is basically a call. A call and response type of thing to people to start looking at the way you treat each other. I think one of the simplest ways, I think, to get that whole thing in check is if you treat people the way that you would want to be treated. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You know what I'm saying?
Well, on that note, we'll end it there because that is the perfect way to end it. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
You want to be treated.
Howard, I can tell you this has been my pleasure.
Great,
I thank you for opening up and sharing so many great stories. I wish you the best.
I'm writing a book, man. So be ready for the book. Be ready for the book. I'm serious. It's like it's gonna be crazy. Yeah. Be ready for the book. I'm thinking about calling it My Life ... So far.
There you go. Actually, that's a dope title too.
Yeah.
And also, congratulations. I know you talked about it at the top of the interview, but October 2nd being named Howard Hewett Day in Akron, Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a big honor, man.
Howard Hewett Jr. Way. Howard Hewett Jr. Way. There, Cadillac Boulevard. Appreciate it, man. Come hang out. You got social medias, all kind of stuff now. The Facebook.com/Howard Hewett fan page. And spell it Hewett, not ITT. They've been trying to get me to spell it ITT since kindergarten, but I'm holding on. You know what I'm saying? And then Instagram is Howard_Hewett. So come on there. I spend most time on the Facebook page I do this thing called FACC ... and life most days, which is fresh air, cardio, conversation, and all that leads to life, understanding. Yeah.
I'm going to follow you right now, brother. So continue success, and I'm looking forward to that book.
Thank you, man. Thank you. God bless you, man. You take care.
God bless.
All right.